welcome all. Welcome to this live conversation. So it's going to be a quick one, but I really want to talk about, the conditions that are coming or perhaps could be coming for temporary residents in Canada. All right, and so basically, what has been happening over the past few years is that, Canadian government and I guess some Canadians, they're blaming temporary residents, for example, for the lack of housing, job opportunities, and all of that. So, right now, I just want to share with you or zoom in on Alberta, the province of Alberta. So, Alberta is one of the 10 provinces in Canada. And recently, all right, the premier of Alberta, she made, some announcements regarding temporary residents. So, in the context of this announcement, I am going to read this article from CBC. So, according to this article titled Temporary Residents Shouldn't Receive Full Benefits, says Alberta Premier. All right, and so in the context of the article, the Premier defended proposals to limit government benefits to non permanent residents in the province. So the Premier, so that's Daniel Smith, wants to put immigration measures and constitutional questions to Albertans via a referendum that will be held on October 19 of this year. All right, and so in the context of this, announcement, the premier reiterated that the cost of benefits like healthcare, education, and social services are a strain on government. This is a direct quote now. What we're talking about is making sure the services are prioritized to the people who have registered a permanent stake in our country and our province. All right, so that was in response to a question from a reporter that was posed to the Premier, Daniel Smith, there. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Please hit the like button, hit the subscription button, and share. Tell a friend to tell another friend about the Voices in Education. So just hit the thumbs up button. All right. And so, in that context, what she was saying is that that's Canadian citizens. So what she's saying there is that is Canadian citizens and permanent residents, right? Temporary individuals should be treated as that. Now, when you think about that statement, and what's happening there, you have to wonder because a lot of what is happening, I feel, just from my perspective, is that the government is failing to take accountability, and so it's like blaming, like putting the blame on temporary residents. So in the context of temporary residents, they are referring to like temporary workers, international students, and I believe asylum seekers. All right, so during the news conference, the premier pointed to foreign workers, international students, and asylum seekers as examples of temporary residents in the province. So now, basically, what the premier is saying is that, they don't believe that temporary residents such as foreign workers, international students, and asylum seekers should have, access to certain services, all right, in the province of Alberta, like healthcare, as in free healthcare, education, and social services. you know, it should come at a cost for them, right? And so that is my understanding there. And so what the government of Alberta is going to do, they're going to put these questions to the people of Alberta. So that's what the referendum is about. They're going to put these questions to the people of Alberta and ask them, I guess, if they agree with this stance. I guess I don't know what the specific questions are. I'm not sure if they're available. But obviously, it's going to be regarding healthcare, education, and social services. If temporary residents should access these services, or is it a case where they should pay for these services? And it's hard when you look at it, for example, because if you go to the context of temporary workers in Canada, they are contributing to the system. They are working because some of the jobs that foreign workers do, Canadians will not do, those jobs. And so when you think about people who are contributing meaningfully to the economy and they're unable to access healthcare, I think, that question is really critical. Like, why would you want to do that? Right? Why would you want to take away from them, considering that they're working here, they're contributing? Why would you want them, for example, to pay for healthcare? So that's a question there. No, they'll talk about international students to say, international students, they come to Canada, they don't contribute, and I'll say that is not the reality. That is not the reality. That is not the truth. The context is, yes, international students are temporary residents, but in the context of a study permit, international students, they do work. And so while it might be limited hours during, regular school sessions, so study times, but during breaks, they do work full time. And something that perhaps a lot of us don't know is that international students, they pay double the fees, that the tuition that domestic students pay, or even more than double, right? And so a lot of these institutions, universities, colleges, they depend on international students to help fund their programs. That's the reality of it. And I feel that, when we hear these statements being made or these questions being asked, if they should get access, I think given the context on the ground, yes, they should get access because they contribute. They contribute. And I think, that is important to note. And, my understanding back in COVID, when a lot of people, weren't working, international students, temporary foreign workers, they filled a lot of the gaps to ensure that, Canada kept going. And so at this juncture, it's just unfair and just inconsiderate for this kind of perspective to be, just out there about temporary workers and, international students in the context. And because they're talking about accessing education and healthcare, I'll just leave the conversation there because, that's pretty much what it is about. So, it's just unfortunate. And even in the same report, as I am saying, there's this Dr. Rachel, and this looks like Tala Vlikar, medical director for the Calgary Refugee Health Clinic, worries about the referendum questions, regarding temporary foreign workers and international students. She said the premier is wrongly blaming them for their impact on the Alberta, all right, treasury, and said the 30% drop in the price of oil is the most significant factor. So what this person is saying is that you're blaming temporary foreign workers for you're just blaming them, because the real issue here is the drop in oil prices. And as you know, or perhaps if you don't know, Alberta, they are pretty much known for that oil, right? And so she continued by saying, we're choosing to suddenly make it convenient to say, well, this group of immigrants is to blame for everything. All right. So that's the thing that makes me really scared for them. And yeah, you're just blaming, I guess, blaming immigrants for something that they did not create, and that part is unfortunate. So it's always important to have an understanding of, the different contexts. So right now, as Canada is cold, it is getting colder for, temporary residents in Canada. And so if you have family members in Canada, you need to, reach out to them, support them as best as you can, because trust me, it's not easy navigating this cold context in Canada. It's really not easy to navigate that, right? And a lot of that is also important, because temporary residents, they go through a lot, just trying to work, trying to move from being a temporary resident to a permanent resident. It's a lot. And the cost that comes with being a temporary resident, it's very significant. It's a very high cost. So it's not as if, it's something that is simple. No, 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 it's a very high cost. It's a very high cost. So basically, what I would say, just from the federal government level, so that's the Canadian government, as well as right now what we're seeing in Alberta, it's really, and perhaps you could say the federal and at the provincial level, it's really getting tougher for temporary residents. And this is not to say that if you're outside of Canada, you should not still try. There are still opportunities to come in. So, if you, all I'll say is just do your research, see what programs, if you want to come as an international student, see what is available in that context. If you want to come as a foreign worker, yes, it might be a little bit more challenging for students and workers to come, but there are still possibilities. So you can always check, but just understand that things may be challenging, but if you're resilient and you're able to just fight through and navigate this cold context, then I guess you'll be fine. But you have to have a strong mindset. You have to have a strong mindset if you decide to come to Canada at this time. All right, so guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming over. Please remember to hit the like button, the share button, the subscription button, and of course, leave your comments in the chat. Let me know your views given these context, and continued blessings, and I will definitely see you in the next live. All right, guys, thank you so much, and take care, everyone, and bye for now.